What's up, YouTube? Brett Hoover from Rants or Us here. Today I'm going to be coming to you with another Lovecraft Country episode 5 and 6 review. Normally I do these reviews every week, but I was sick last week, so I didn't get to do episode 5 review, so I'm just going to combine these two episodes together on this one. And as always, guys, if y'all enjoy our content, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a comment. We are on the road to 1,000, and if y'all enjoy our content, please think about subscribing today. We hope we earn your subscription on this day. But as always, I'll get to episode 5. Okay, we're now at the halfway point of Lovecraft Country. And I'll admit, after episode 1, this show's kind of lost me a little bit. It goes through individual moments that I love. And then it just, as soon as I think, okay, now I'm back into it, it goes to like some kind of weird continuation. It's like it's not a linear way of writing or doing video or of doing a series. It's kind of all over the place. It feels like it wants to cement the backstory more than it wants to actually move the plot forward in a lot of different ways. But overall, I thought episode 5, I wasn't big on episode 5. I was not big on episode 5. And the reason why that is because, I feel like Atticus is and Letty are becoming side characters in this show. And they really should be, at this point, we should be well into increasing the focus on those two characters, but instead in episode 5 now we're back focusing on Ruby, which up to this point was nothing but a side character, and really one that didn't really have that many roles up to this point. But I thought at the beginning of this episode, I thought it started off really cool. Ruby got with William in the last episode, and we knew he was up to something, and sure enough on this one she wakes up as a white woman. Now I thought this was really cool. They show the butterflies that are coming into the room, and it really does a really good representation of this whole episode just in general, because there's going to be a lot of transformation physically and psychologically in this episode when it comes to a lot of the characters. Montrose goes through it. Ruby goes through it. Most of the characters go through some form of transformation in this episode. But as far as, and especially Christina. But so I thought that was pretty cool. I thought this whole thing with Ruby and William, I thought the whole relationship on that, I mean, it's obvious that William was using Ruby, and I think Ruby even kind of understands that, but her waking up as a white woman, she was, at first she was hesitant, but then she started getting the thrill of enjoying being a white woman. It just, I don't know. I wasn't too into, I guess the one thing, it wasn't necessarily the portrayal of Ruby and the things that she has to go to that I didn't enjoy. Tell you the one thing that actually set me off that I just completely ruined it, was the music for me. The music in this show, when it started off in episode 1, it started off with kind of like a 1950s backdrop. It kind of gave you that feel. On this one, the music was just really 2020 kind of feel to it, and it just kind of, when I think back on the music, it makes me think of what African Americans have to go through today, and not what was going on back in the 1950s. Because whether no matter how you look at it today, back in the 1950s, there was all of this, it was outward racism that was going on. There was no hiding it. There was no anything. It was outward, and it was accepted. And I felt like the music kind of draws me into 2020 feel more than the 1950s feel, like episode 1 did. But overall, I thought I didn't really enjoy episode 5. I'm just going to give a quick review on some of the little happenings of what it was. Letty really wasn't in it. Atticus, he had a minor role in it. It was just almost all about Ruby and William's relationship. And it was about how Ruby uses her ability as a white woman to get a job and to to really show the discrepancies that's going on in the society of that day, where that she kept the same resume, but yet that resume as a white woman got her a job as a manager, where that she couldn't even become an employee as a black woman with it. So that I thought was an interesting thing. But overall, we did learn some things. We learned some things about William, which we actually find out William is Christina in this episode. So I guess you can kind of say William and Christina, which that really isn't a shocker to most. Because, we've kind of got hints. But one thing that William did mention was that he was an understudy of Hiram Epstein. So he has a history in that house. He was probably one of the ones that was actually helping Epstein do some of the experiments, these brutal experiments that murdered all those people in that house. So I thought that was interesting. If maybe Ruby understood exactly what had gone on with Epstein, she would be a lot more fearful of what William is at this point. Which I think William kind of does already kind of give her hints that he's not the good guy that maybe she's wanting him to be. I think right now she thinks she's using him just as much as he's using her. But overall, another thing that really caught my attention on this episode was Christina. Now, Christina wasn't a big part of this episode, but I thought she played a crucial role into what is going to go on in future and what this episode is trying to actually set up for future episodes. There's something about with this Lancaster, this Captain Lancaster in Chicago, that I'm really kind of confused about. Christina cannot be a member of the order of the cult, so I don't really understand what her hatred towards Lancaster is. Lancaster says, well, he's going to try to take over Christina's father's role now that he's gone. But it didn't, I don't really see why that matters to her. She's powerful enough on her own. Why is she worried about her father's work in that way? It seems like there's some kind of personal animosity between her and this Captain Lancaster. And, when William tells Ruby, he's like, hey, I'll give you this, you're just going to do us a favor. And then she puts that little, I don't know what you could even call it. It's some kind of an amulet. It's got some kind of a little picture on it, a hieroglyph looking thing on it. And in that, she tells, Christina tells Ruby, which is posing as somebody that's serving drinks at the party with the Lancaster, tells him to tells her to put this in his drawer, and of course she hides in the closet, and we finally get to find out what's in Lancaster's closet. It's actually a man that had actually stole money from him, that he was actually slowly torturing to death. But overall, I would like to know a little bit more what's going on between Christina and Lancaster's relationship overall. There's something, I thought she was going to kill him, but which that actually might be the case, because at the same time Atticus is trying to decipher the pages that his father had thought he had destroyed, but that Letty had saved through pictures, and he's deciphering it. And when it shows a picture of what Ruby put in Lancaster's drawer, it's the exact same one that is that Atticus is trying to decipher to find out the meanings of behind a lot of this. And at the end, it shows that what he's actually deciphered actually means that he's going to die. So I mean, I guess that could be a death sentence for Lancaster. I don't know if that's like some kind of amulet that's going to murder him. So we'll find out in future episodes. We're unfortunately not going to find out in the next episode. And I was a little bit disappointed with that because I was really interested in that aspect of it. But overall, my take on this episode was it was bland to me. And, it was, like I said, it was a episode full of transformation. Montrose, he finally accepts who he is as a gay man, which they've been hinting at since, the very beginning that that's what he was. And he finally accepts that, and he transforms into a man that's, accepting of who he is finally. Of course, we find out at the end that Christina is actually William. And, that's the transformation. Of course, Ruby turned into a white woman. Overall, I thought Montrose's transformation didn't set well with me in the fact that I thought it could have been done better. I thought it was a little bit out of place because at the beginning of the episode they show him still with Yahima's blood underneath his fingers. He's clearly walking around like he's dazed and confused the entire episode. But, at the end, he's listening to music and he's seeing his lover up, in drag on stage, and all of a sudden he's like, well, now I'm going to accept it. I thought if it would have been a slow progression throughout the episode of him coming to terms with that, but it seemed like he was shell-shocked by what he had to do to Yahima. And I felt like just him coming out, I'm like, well, that's great. It's coming out, and they're finally verifying, what we've all been suspecting. But I felt like it was a little bit out of place for how he was the entire episode. But, I really think Ruby is being kind of set up as an accidental bad guy. I think she's cast her lot with the wrong crowd. I think now she's a little bit too far to get out. I was glad that Atticus and Letty finally showed some real emotion towards each other in this episode too. I felt like the whole time it seemed each episode has kind of seemed forced. But in this one, it actually seemed realistic. It seemed understanding. It seemed like a real love affair. So I was excited about that. But yeah, like I said, at the end, we find out that it goes, that what he translated is that he's going to die. That Atticus is going to die. So he calls his former South Korean lover, and, he tries to ask her what that means. We don't understand that at first, but we do actually understand it in episode 6, which I'll get to now. I really liked episode 6. I really liked it, not because of that I felt like that it progressed the story. It didn't progress the story. Like I said, it cemented the past. It helped us understand Atticus's behavior in the present day of the episodes, but it doesn't. To me, it didn't move the story forward. We come across this lovely girl that's in South Korea named Jia. She is. We actually find out in this episode that she's actually the alien that was in Atticus's dream back in episode 1. And I guess that was his rationality of what she was in his mind at that time. Like she was, he finds out that, she's not exactly a human. And so I guess his only way to rationalize it is that she's some sort of alien. So I thought that was kind of an interesting throwback to episode 1. But we find out that this Gia, now, we start off thinking, well, this is that she's living in a household where that her mother is just trying to marry her off to better their family, to bring honor to their family. But we actually find out that Gia's mother, or I guess you could say mother, is actually a woman who had a child out of wedlock. And the only way that she could bring honor back to her family was to marry. And she did find a man that married, but this man that she married actually was raping her daughter. So she went to this, I don't know if you could call it a priest or some kind of a thing that could talk to spirits, and she actually, for a price, she actually was able to put a spirit, some kind of a fox spirit named Kumiho, I think is what they called it in the episode. In there, this spirit is supposed to seduce men and steal their souls. Well, after about 100 souls that this demon this spirit steals, the mother thinks that her daughter will be returned to her, and I guess the spirit will go back into the spirit world. But now that they've got, so all this time she's been, this Jiha has been going and seducing men, and then uses these tentacles to go and basically reach literally into them in every crevice. A little explicit, but that's just the way it works in this episode. But to reach into every crevice and to actually pull out these people's souls and to read their memories before she murders them, and she's got to 99. In this episode, we find out that, this is right before the Korean War. Atticus is just arriving in Korea. There's a lot of activity going on with anti-communist behavior in there, where people are stringing people up that have communist tendencies. And we actually find out that this Jia's best friend actually has a communist ties. And that actually leads to where Jia actually meets Atticus, and that is through her working at a hospital in America. These American soldiers believe that there was a communist spy that was given information through that hospital about some of what was going on in their troop movement. And so they were actually killing some of the nurses to be able to try to find out who that spy actually is. Well, and Jia's friend actually gives herself up, and Atticus is actually one of the ones that kills one of the women in there. So a couple of weeks later, when she finds Atticus hurt and in there, she automatically thinks, I'm going to seduce him. He's going to be my 100th one, and I'm going to get payback for my best friend. Well, she ends up falling in love with him. And it's actually really sweet. She thinks that he's just like everybody else, that he's just wanting sex, and she could just go in there and, kill him and just be done with it. But slowly she finds herself falling for him and him falling for her. And by his sincere acts, he knows that she loves Judy Garland movies, and he goes and he sets up this little thing, movie set where that they can watch a Judy Garland on the screen at the base and things along those lines. But when it comes time for them to actually have sex, she finds out that he's a virgin, and she's trying to take it easy with him. But during all of that time, she actually ends up letting her, I guess, tentacles try to suck on his eyeballs, and she reads his mind, and she finds out in his mind that she actually sees things not just from his past, but she sees things from his future, and she realizes he's going to die, but it's not going to be by her. So after all of this happens, and she manages to free herself from sucking out his soul, he runs and he hides, and he ends up taken back home, and he never sees her again. And she keeps screaming after him, hey, you're gonna, you need to stay here. You're going to die if you continue on, if you go back home. But overall, I thought this episode was really, it was great. I enjoyed Gia. I enjoyed her. I wish there would actually been more to her throughout this story. But unlike just like many of these other episodes, it seems like it's a one-off episode. It seems like it is, like I said, it's not in a linear fashion. It's more of, we're going to pull it this way, and then we're going to all of a sudden drop it over here for some reason. I don't know. It's great storytelling. The individual stories are interesting, but they don't, in at least my opinion, fit together as well as what they should. Now, I know a lot of people enjoy this show and they love this show, and it's not that I'm hating on this show. I just wish that there was just more of a consistent progression, instead of progression, backstory, progression, backstory, or something progression, and then to something that really didn't have anything to do with what we had come across. I think it was episode 3 with the ghost house. Like, yes, that now ties into some things, but it at the time it just was like, what is going on here? I didn't understand that, and I was kind of almost that way with this Gia story too. But overall, I enjoyed this episode. I feel like this is just another episode where Letty and Atticus are side characters, which Letty didn't even, she briefly appeared in a vision by Gia, but, she didn't even appear in this. So there was no progression forward. There was just, of telling exactly, why Atticus was the way he was, why he was so hesitant to be in a relationship with Letty, I guess to a certain extent. But overall, like I said, I enjoyed this episode. If y'all got anything else to add here, I really don't have much more to add on this show. I'm actually kind of looking forward to the next episode. I'm hoping that Gia is actually in this one, in the next episode. But we'll just have to see on that one. But as always, guys, if y'all enjoy our videos, please don't forget to subscribe and like. And, be here for episode 7 next week, or I guess Sunday. Hopefully I'll be able to get it out to y'all guys. Y'all take